Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secret, Chapter 12, The Polyjuice Potion. They step off the stone staircase on top, and Professor McGonagall rapped on the door. It opened slightly and silently, and they entered. Professor McGonagall told Harry to wait and left him there alone. Harry looked around. One thing was certain. Of all teacher offices Harry had visited so far this year, Dumbledore was by far the most interesting. If he hadn't been scared out of his wit that he was about to be thrown out of school, he would have been very pleased to have a chance to look around it. It was a large, beautiful circular room, full of funny little noise. A number of curious silver instruments stood on a spindle-legged table, whirring and emitting a little puff of smoke. The walls were covered with portraits of old headmaster and headmistress, all of whom were snoozing gently in their frame. There was also an enormous clawfoot desk, and sitting on it, on a shelf behind it, a shabby tattered wizard hat, the Sorting Hat. Harry hesitated. He cast a wary eyes around the sleeping witch and wizard on the wall. Surely it couldn't hurt if he took the hat down and tried it on again, just to make sure it had put him in the right houses. He walked quietly around the desk, lifted the hat from its shelf, and lowered it slowly onto his desk. It was too large, and slipped down over his eyes, just as he had done the last time he had put it on. Harry stared at the black inside of the hat, waiting. Then a small voice said in his ear, "Be in your bonnet, Harry Potter?" Yes," Harry muttered. Sorry to bother you. I wanted to ask, you've been wondering whether I put you in the right houses," said the hat smartly. "Yes, you were particularly difficult to place, but I'd stand by what I said before." Harry's heart leaped. "You would have done well in Slytherin." Harry's stomach plummeted. He grabbed the point of the hat and pulled it off. It hung limply in his hand from being faded. He pushed it back onto its shelf, feeling sick. "You're wrong," he said aloud to the still and silent hat. It didn't move. Harry backed away, watching it. Then a strange gagging noise behind him made him wheel around. He was alone after all. Standing on a golden perch behind a door was a decrepit-looking bird which resembled a half-plucked turkey. Harry stared at it, and the bird looked balefully back, marking its gagging noise again. Harry thought it looked very ill. Its eyes were dull, and even as Harry watched, a couple more feathers fell out of its tail. Harry was just thinking that all he needed was for Dumbledore pet's bird to die while he was alone in the office with it, when the bird burst into flame. Harry yelled in shock and backed away into the desk. He looked feverishly around the case. There was a glass of water somewhere, but he couldn't see one. The bird, meanwhile, had become a fireball. It gave out one loud shriek, and next second there was nothing but a smoldering pile of ash on the floor. The office door opened. Dumbledore came in, looking very somber. "Professor," Harry gasped, "your bird!" "I couldn't do anything. He just caught on fire." Their astonishment, Dumbledore smiled. "About time, too," he said. "He's been looking dreadful for days. I've been telling him to get a move on." He chuckled at a stunned look on Harry's faces. "Fox is a phoenix, Harry. Phoenix bursts into flame when it is time to die, and are reborn from the ashes. Watch him." Harry looked down in time to see a tiny, wrinkled, newborn bird poke its head out of the ashes. It was quite as ugly as the old one. "It's a shame you had to see him on burning day," said Dumbledore, seating himself in behind his desk. "He's really very handsome most of the time. Wonderful red and gold plumage. Fascinating creature, phoenix. You can carry me immensely heavy load. Their tears having healing power, and they make highly faithful pets." In the shock of Fox catching fire, Harry had forgotten what he was there for, but all came back to him as Dumbledore settled himself in a high-backed chair and beside the desk and fixed Harry with his penetrating light blue stare. Before Dumbledore could speak another word, however, the door of the office flew open with a a mighty bang when Hagrid burst in, a wild look in his eyes, his balaclava perched on top of his shaggy black head, and the dead rooster still swinging from his head. "It wasn't Harry, Professor Dumbledore," said Harry urgently. "I was talking to him second before that kid was found. He never had time, sir." Dumbledore tried to say something, but Hagrid went ratting on, waving the rooster around in his agitation, setting feather everywhere. "It can't have been him, I'll swear it, friend of the Ministry of Magic if I have to." "Hagrid, you've got the wrong boy, sir. I know Harry never—" "Hagrid," said Dumbledore loudly, "I do not think that Harry attacked those people." "Oh," said Hagrid, the rooster falling limply at his side. "Right. I'll wait outside then, Headmaster." And he stomped out looking embarrassed. "You don't think it was me, Professor?" Harry repeatedly hopefully, as Dumbledore brushed Rooster Feather off his desk. "No, Harry, I don't." Though his face was somber again, "but I still want to talk to you." Harry waited nervously, while Dumbledore considered him, the tips of his long finger together. "I must ask you, Harry, whether there is anything you would like to tell me," he said gently. "Anything at all." He didn't know what to say. He thought of Malfoy shouting, "You'll be next, Mudblood," and the polyjuice potion simmering in the moaning Myrtle bathroom. Then he thought of the dissembled voice I heard twice, and remembered that Ron had said, "Hearing a voice no one else can hear isn't a good sign, even in the wizarding world." He thought, too, about what everyone was saying about him, and his growing dread that he was somehow connected with Salazar Slytherin. "No," said Harry, "there isn't anything, Professor." The double attack on Justin and nearly headless Nick turned into a hetero-bitten nervousness and a real panic. Curiously, it was nearly headless Nick's fate that seemed to worry people most. What could possibly do to that ghost? People asked each other that what terrible power could harm someone who was already dead. There's almost a stamp on book seat on the Hogwarts Express, so that student could go home for Christmas. "At this rate, we'll be the only one left," Ron told Harry and Hermione. "Us, Malfoy, Greyback, and Goyle. What a jolly holiday it's going to be!" Greyback and Goyle, who always did whatever Malfoy did, had signed up to stay over the holiday too. But Harry was glad that most people were leaving. He was tired of people skirting around him in the corridor as though he was about to sprout fangs of spit potion, or tired of muttering, pointing, and hissing as he passed. Fred and George, however, found all this very funny. They went out of their way to march ahead of Harry down the corridor, shouting, "Mark, make the way for the Heir of Slytherin! Seriously, evil wizard coming through!" Percy was deeply disapproving of this behavior. "It is not a laughing matter," he said coldly. "Oh, get out of the way, Percy," said Fred. "Harry's in a hurry." "Yeah, he's nipping up the Chamber of Secret for a cup of tea with his fanged servant," said George shortly. Ginny didn't find it amusing either. "Oh, don't!" she wailed every time. Fred and George at least thought the idea of being Slytherin Heir was quite ludicrous, but their antics seemed to be aggravating Draco Malfoy, who looked increasingly sour each time he saw them at it. "It's because he's bursting to say it's really him," said Ron knowingly. "You know how he hates anyone beating him at anything, and you're getting all the credit for his dirty work. Not for long," said Hermione in a satisfied tone. "The polyjuice potion nearly ready. We'll be getting truth out of him any day now." At last the term ended, a silence deep as the snow on the ground descended on the castle. Harry found it peaceful rather than gloomy, and enjoyed the fact that he, Hermione, and the Weasley had the run of Gryffindor Tower, which meant they could play Exploding Snap loudly without bothering anyone, and practicing dueling in private. Fred and George and Ginny had chosen to stay at school rather than visit Bill in Egypt with Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. Percy, who disapproved of what he termed their childish behavior, didn't spend much time in the Gryffindor common room. He had already told them pompishly that he was only staying over Christmas because it was his duty as a prefect to support his teacher during his troubled time. Christmas morning dawned, cold and white. Harry and Ron were only left in the dormitory were woken very early by Hermione, who burst in, fully dressed and carrying a present for them both. "Wake up!" she said loudly, pulling back the curtain at the window. "Hermione, you're not supposed to be in here," said Ron, shielding his eyes against the light. "Merry Christmas to you, too," said Hermione, throwing him his present. "I've been up nearly an hour adding more lacewing to the potion. It's ready." Harry sat up suddenly, wide awake. "Are you sure? Positive?" "Positive," said Hermione, shifting Scabbard the rat so that she could sit down in the end of his four-poster. "If we're going to do it, I say it should be tonight." At that moment, Hedwig stooped in the room, carrying a very small package in her beak. "Hello?" said Harry happily, as she landed on his bed. "Are you speaking to me again?" She nibbled his ear on his effective sort of way, which was a far better present than the one which she had brought him, which turned out to be from the Dursley. They had sent Harry a toothpick and a note telling him to find out whether he would be able to stay at Hogwarts for the summer holiday too. The rest of Harry's Christmas presents were far more satisfactory. Hagrid had sent him a large tin of magical fudge, which Harry decided to soften by the fire before eating. Ron had given him a book called Flying with the Cannons, a book of interesting facts about his favorite Quidditch team. And Hermione had bought him a luxury eagle feather quill. Harry opened the last present to find a new hand-knitted jumper from Mrs. Weasley and a large plum cake. He put up her card with a fresh surge of guilt, thinking about Mr. Weasley's card, which had been since its crash with the Whomping Willow and the bout of rule-breaking he and Ron were planning next. No one, not even someone dreading taking the polyjuice potion later, could fail to enjoy Christmas dinner at Hogwarts. The Great Hall looked magnificent. Not only there were a dozen frost-covered Christmas tree and thick streamer of holly and mistletoe crisscrossing the ceiling, but enchanted snow was falling warm and dry from the ceiling. Dumbledore had led them in a few of his favorite carols, Hagrid booming more and more loudly with every goblet of eggnog he consumed. Percy, who hadn't noticed that Fred had bewitched his perfect badge so that it now read Pinhead, kept asking them what all they were sniggering at. Wait a minute. Perfect. Harry didn't even care that Draco Malfoy was making loud snide remark about his new jumper from the Slytherin table. With a bit of luck, Malfoy would getting his combo up pins in a few hours' time. Harry and Ron had barely finished the third helping of Christmas pudding when Hermione ushered them out of the hall to finalize their plan for the evening. "We still need a bit of the people you're changing into," said Hermione matter-of-factly, as though she was sending them into the supermarket for washing powder. "And obviously, it'll be best if you can get something off Graben Goyle. They're Malfoy's best friend. He'll tell them anything. We also need to make sure the real Graben Goyle can't burst it on us while we're interrogating him. I've got it all worked out," she went on smoothly, ignoring Harry and Ron's stupefied faces. "Shelled up 2 plum chocolate cake. I filled these with simple sleeping draught. All you have to do is make sure Graven and Goyle find them. You know how greedy they are. They're bound to eat them. Once they're asleep, pull out a few of their hairs and hide them in a broom cupboard." Harry and Ron looked incredulously at each other. "Hermione, I don't think so. They could go seriously wrong," but Hermione had a steady glint in her eyes, not unlike the one Professor McGonagall sometimes had. "The potion will be useless without Grape and Gully hairs," she said sternly. "You do want to investigate Malfoy, don't you?" Oh, all right, Sarah, but what about you? Whose hair are you ripping out? I've already got mine, said Hermione brightly, pulling a tiny bottle out of her pocket and showing them a single hair inside it. Remember Millicent Bulstrode wrestling with me at the dueling club? She left this on my robe when she was trying to strangle me. And she's gone home for Christmas, so I'll just have to tell the Slytherin I've decided to come back. When Hermione bustled off to check on the polyjuice potion again, Ron turned her hair with a doom-laden expression. Have you ever heard of a plan where so many things could go wrong? But to Harry and Ron's utter amazement, stage one of the operation went just as smoothly as Hermione had said. They lurked in the deserted entrance hall after Christmas tea, waiting for Grey Ben Goyle, who had remained alone on the Slytherin table, shoveling down fourth helping of trifle. Harry had perched off the chocolate cakes on the end of the banister. When they spotted Grey Ben Goyle coming out of the great hall, Harry and Ron hid quickly behind a suit of armor next to the front door. "How thick can you get?" Ron whispered acidly as Grey gleefully pointed out the cake to Goyle, who grabbed them. Grinning stupidly, they stuffed the cake hole into their large mouth. Wait a minute. I must see like the. Oh, that's a little bit hard. Okay. Banister. When they spotted Grey Ben Goyle coming out of the great hall, Harry and Ron hid quickly behind a suit of armor next to the front door. "How thick can you get?" Ron whispered acidly as Grey Ben gleefully pointed out the cake to Goyle, who grabbed them. Grinning stupidly, they stuffed the cake hole into their large mouth. For a moment, both of them chewed greedily, look of the triumph on their face. Then, with the smallest change of expression, they both keeled off over backward onto the floor. Much of the most difficult bit was hiding them in the cupboard across the hall. Once they were safely stowed among the bucket and mops, Harry yanked out a couple of bristles and then that covered Goyle's forehead, and Ron pulled out several gray hairs too. They also stole their shoes, because their own were far too small for Grey Ben Goyle's sized feet. Then, still stunned at what they had just done, they sprinted up to the Moaning Myrtle bathroom. They could hardly see for the thick black smoke issuing from the cubicle in which Hermione was stirring in the cauldron, pulling their robes over their faces. Harry and Ron knocked softly on the door. "Hermione?" There was a scrap of lock, and Hermione emerged, shiny face and looking anxious. Behind her, there a gloop of bubbling, treacle-thick potion. 3 glass tumblers stood ready on the toilet seat. "Did you get them?" Hermione asked breathlessly. Harry showed her Goyle hair. "Good. I sneaked these spare robes out of the laundry," Hermione said, holding up a small sack. "You'll need bigger size once you're Grey Ben Goyle." The 3 of them stared in the cauldron. Close up, the potion looked like thick, dark mud, bubbling sluggishly. "I'm sure I've done everything right," said Hermione, nervously rereading the slouched page of pointy potion. "It looked like the books say it should. Once we've drunk it, we'll have exactly an hour before we change back into ourselves." "Now what?" Ron whispered. "We separate it into 3 glasses and add the hairs." Hermione ladled the large dollops of potion into each of the glasses. Then, her hand trembling, she shook Millicent Bulstrode hair out of its bottle with the first glass. The potion hissed loudly with a boiling kettle, and frothed madly. A second later, it had turned a sick sort of yellow. "Ugh, absent of Millicent Bulstrode," said Ron, eyeing it with a loathing. "Bet it tastes disgusting." "Add yours, then," said Hermione. Harry dropped Goyle hair into the middle glasses, and Ron put Grey Ben into the last one. Both glasses hissed and frothed. Goyle turned into khaki-colored buggies. Grey Ben a dark and murky brown. "Hang on," said Harry, as Ron and Hermione reached for their glasses. "We'll better not all drink all of them in here. Once we turn to Grey Ben Goyle, we won't fit, and Millicent Bulstrode no pixies." "Good thinking," said Ron, unlocking the door. "We'll take in separate cubicles." Careful not to spill a drop of his polyjuice potion, Harry slipped into the middle cubicle. "Ready?" he called. "Ready?" came Ron and Hermione voices. 1, 2, 3. Pinching his nose, Harry shrank, drank the potion down into two large globes. It tasted like an overcooked cabbage. Immediately, his insides started working as though he'd just swallowed a live snake. Double up, he wondered whether he was just going to be sick. Then a burning sensation spread rapidly from his stomach to the very end of his finger and toes. Next, bringing him, gasping all fours, came a horrible melting feeling as as the skin all over his body bubbled like hot wax, and before the skin all over his body bubbled like hot wax, and before his eyes, his hand began to grow, the finger thickened, the nail broadened, and the knuckle were bulging like bolts. His shoulders stretched painfully, and a prickling on his forehead told him that the hair was creeping down toward his eyebrow. His robe ripped as his chest expanded like a bird bursting in two. His feet were agony and feet force in his shoes 4 sizes too small. As suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. Harry lay face down on the cold stone floor, listening to a mortal gurgling morsely in the end toilet. With difficulty, he kicked off his shoes and stood up, so that this is what it felt like being Goily. His large hand trembling, he pulled off his old robe, which were hanging up foot above his ankle, pulled on a spare one, and laced up Goily boat-like shoes. He'd reach up to brush his hair out of his eyes, and met only the short growth of worry bristle low on his forehead. Then he realized that his glasses were clouding his eyes because Goily obviously didn't need them. He took them off and called, "Are you two okay?" Goily glow grabs a voice issued from his mouth. "Yeah," came a deep grunt of bravery from his right. Harry unlocked his door and stepped in front of the cracked mirror. Goily stared back at him with the dual deep-set eyes. Harry scratched his ear. So did Goily. Drawn doors opened. They stared at each other, except that he looked pale and shocked, almost indistinguishably from Greyback, for the pudding basin haircut and the long gorilla arms. "This is unbelievable," said Ron, approaching the mirror and prodding Greyback's flat nose. "Unbelievable." "Well, better get going," said Harry, losing the watch that was cutting in the Goily thick wrist. "We have still got to find out where the Slytherin common room is." "I only hope we can find someone to follow," Ron, who has been gazing at Harry, said. "You don't know how bizarre it is to see Goily thinking." He banged on Hermione's door. "Come on, we need to go." A high-pitched voice answered him. I don't think I'm going to come after all. You go on without me. Hermione, we know Millicent Bulls are ugly. No one's going to know it's you." "No, really, I don't think I'll come." "You two hurry up. You're wasting time." Harry looked at Ron Bill wider. "That looked more like Goily," said Ron. That's how he looked every time a teacher asked him a question. "Hermione, are you okay?" Harry through the door. "Fine, I'm fine. Go on." Harry looked at his watch. Five of the precious 60 minutes have already passed. "I'll meet you back here, all right?" he said. Harry and Ron opened the door of the bathroom carefully, checked that the coast was clear, and set off. "Don't swing your arm like that," Harry murmured to Ron. "Huh?" Rabel held them sort of stiff. "How's this?" "Yeah, that's better." They went down the marble staircase. All they needed now was a Slytherin whom they could follow to the Slytherin common room. But there was nobody around. "Any ideas?" muttered Harry. "The Slytherin always come up to breakfast from over there," said Ron, nodding at the entrance of the dungeon. The word had barely left his mouth when a girl with long curly hair emerged from the entrance. "Excuse me," said Ron, running up to her. "We've forgotten the way back to your common room." "I beg your pardon," the girl stiffly. "Our common room? I'm a Ravenclaw." She walked away, looking suspiciously back at them. Harry and Ron hurried back down stone step into darkness, their footsteps echoing particularly loudly as Gravengold's huge feet hit the floor. Feeling that this was going to be as easy as they had hoped, labyrinth and passage were deserted. They walked deeper and deeper under school, constantly checking their watches to see how much time they had left. After a quarter of an hour, just when they were getting desperately, they heard a sudden movement ahead. "Ha!" said Rex excitedly. "There's one of them now." The figures emerging from the side room. As they hurried nearer, however, their hearts sank. It wasn't a Slytherin. It was Percy. What are you doing here?" said Ron in surprise. Percy looked up frighteningly. "That," he said simply, "is none of our business. It's Greybae, isn't it?" Who? Oh, yeah, said Ron. "Well, get up to your dormitories," said Percy sternly. "It's not safe to go wandering around dark corridors these days." "You are," Ron pointed out. "I," said Percy, drawing himself up, "I am a prefect. Nothing about to attack me." A voice suddenly echoed behind him. Harry and Ron. Draco Malfoy was strolling toward them, and for the first time in his life, Harry was pleased to see him. "There you are," he drawled, looking at them. "Have you two been peeking out in the Great Hall all this time? I've been looking for you. I want to show you something really funny." Malfoy glanced worthily at Percy. "And what's you doing here, Weasley?" he sneered. Percy looked outrageous. "You don't want to show a bit more respect to a school prefect," he said. "I don't like your attitude." Malfoy sneered and motioned Harry and Ron to follow him. Harry almost said something apologetic to Percy, but caught himself just in time. He and Ron hurried him after Malfoy, who said as he turned to the next passage, "That Peter Weasley." "Percy," Ron corrected him automatically. "Whatever," said Malfoy. I've noticed him sneaking around a lot lately. And I bet I know what he's up to. I think he's going to catch Slytherin here single-handed." He gave a snort, deceptive laugh. Harry and Ron exchanged excited look. Malfoy passed by a stretch of bare, damp stone wall. "What's the new password again?" he said to Harry. "Oh yeah, pure blood," said Malfoy, not listening, and a stone door concealed to the wall slid open. Malfoy marched through it, and Harry and Ron followed him. The Slytherin common room was a long, low, underground room with rough stone wall and ceiling, from which round greenish lamp were hanging on the chain. A fire was crackling under elaborately carved mantelpieces. Ahead of them, and severally, Slytherin were silhouetted around in a carved chair. "Wait here," said Malfoy to Harry and Ron, motioning to them a pair of empty chairs set back from the fire. "I'll go and get it my father to send it to me." Wondering what Malfoy was going to show them, Harry and Ron sat down, doing their best to look at home. Malfoy came back a minute later, holding what looked like a newspaper cutting. He thrust it under Ron's nose. "That'll give you a laugh," he said. Harry saw Ron's eyes widen in shock. He read the cutting quickly, gave a very forced laugh, and handed it to Harry. It had been clipped out of Daily Prophet, and had said, "Inquiry at Ministry of Magic. Arthur Weasley, head of Mischief Muggle Artifact Office, was today fined 50 galleon for bewitching a Muggle car." Mr. Lucius Malfoy, a governor of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, where the enchanted car crashed earlier. This drill called today for Mr. Weasley's resignation. Weasley had bought the ministry info disputed, Mr. Malfoy told our reporter. "He's clearly unfit to draw up our law, and this ridiculous Muggle Protection Act should be scrapped immediately." Mr. Malfoy was unavailable for a moment, although his wife told the reporter to clear off. She set the family goal on them. So the family... "Well," said Malfoy impatiently, as Harry had cutting back to him. "Do you think it's funny?" "Ha ha," said Harry meekly. "Arthur Weasley loved Muggles so much he should snap his one off and go and join them," said Malfoy scornfully. "You had better never know the Weasley were pure blood, the way they behave." Ron, or rather Greybae, faces comfort with fury. "What's up with you, Greybae?" snapped Malfoy. "Stomachache," Ron grunted. "Well, go up to the hospital wing and give all those mudblood a kick from me," said Malfoy, sniggering. "You know, I'm surprised the Daily Prophet hasn't reported all these attacks yet." He went on thoughtfully. "I suppose Dumbledore's trying to push it all up. He'll be sacked if it doesn't stop soon. Father always said to Dumbledore the worst thing that ever happened to this place is he loved Muggleborn." A decent headmaster would never let slime like that creep in. Malfoy started taking pictures with an imaginary camera and did a cruel but impression of Colin. Porter, can I have a picture, Porter? Can I have your autograph? Can I lick your shoes, please, Porter? Drop his hand and look at Harry, too. What's the matter with you two? Far too late, Harry and Ron forced himself to laugh, but Malfoy seemed satisfied. Perhaps Grape and Willie were always slow on the uptake. Saint Porter, the mudblood, his friend, said Malfoy slowly. He's another one with a proper wizard feeling, or he wouldn't go around with a jump-up ranger mudblood. And people think he's a Slytherin heir. Harry and Ron waited with a bated breath. Malfoy was surely a second away from telling them what it was him. But then, I wish I knew who it is, said Malfoy patiently. I could help them. Ron's jaw dropped so that Greybow face looked even more formless than usual. Unfortunately, Malfoy didn't notice, and Harry, thinking fast, said, You must have some idea who's behind it all. You know I haven't, Goalie. How many times do I have to tell you? Snapped Malfoy. And Father won't tell me anything about the last time the chamber was open either. Of course, it was 50 years ago. So it wasn't before this time, but he know all about it. And he say that was all kept quiet, but it will look suspicious if I know too much about it. But I know one thing. Last time the chamber's secret was open, a mudblood died. So I bet it's only a time before the one of them killed this time. I hope it's Granger, he said with a relish. Ron was clenching Raby's gigantic fist, feeling that it would be a bit of a giveaway if Ron punched Malfoy. Harry shot him a warning look and said, Do you know if the person who opened the chamber last time was caught? Oh yeah, whoever was expelled, said Malfoy. They're probably still in Azkaban. Azkaban? Said Harry, puzzled. Azkaban, the wizard prison, Goyle, said Malfoy, looking at him in disbelief. Honestly, if you were any slower, you'd better be going backward. He shifted restlessly in his chair and said, Father said to keep my head down and let him, the hair of Slytherin, get on with it. He said the school need writing of all mudblood filth, but not to get him mixed up in it. Of course, he got a lot of his plate at the moment. You know, the Ministry of Magic raided our manor last week. Harry tried to force Scully face doing a look of concern. Yeah, said Malfoy, luckily. They didn't find much. Father got some very valuable dark art stuff, but luckily, we've got our own secret chamber under the drawing room floor. Ho, said Ron. Malfoy looked at him. So did Harry. Ron blushed. Even his hair was turning red. His nose was already slowly slackening. Their hours up. Ron was turning back to himself, and for the look of horror it was suddenly giving Harry, he must be too. They both jumped to their feet. Medicine for my stomach, Ron grunted, and without further ado, they sprinted the length of the Slytherin common room, hurled themselves at the stone wall, and dashed out the passage, hoping against hope that Malfoy hadn't noticed anything. Harry could feel his feet slipping around in Goyle, huge shoes, and to hose up his rope as he shrank. They crashed up the step into the dark entrance hall, which was full of muffled pounding coming from the cupboard where they locked Brave and Goyle, leaving their shoes outside the cupboard door. They sprinted up in their sock up the marble staircase toward Moaning Myrtle bathroom. Well, it wasn't a complete waste of time, Ron panted, closing the bathroom door behind them. I know we still haven't found out who's doing the attack, but I'm going to write to Dad tomorrow and tell him to check under the Malfoy drawing room. Harry checked his face in the cracked mirror, and he was back to normal. He put his glass on as Ron hammered on the door of the Hermione cubicle. Hermione, come out. We've got a lot to tell you. Go away, Hermione squeaked. Harry and Ron looked at each other. What's the matter? Said Ron. You must be back to normal by now. We are, but Moaning Myrtle glanced suddenly through the cubicle door. Harry had never seen her look so happy. Ooh, wait till you see, she said. It's awful. It's awful. They heard the lock slide back and Hermione emerged, sobbing, her robes pulled up over her head. What's up? Said Ron uncertainly. Have you still got Milson's nose or something? Hermione let her robe fall and Ron back into the sink, and her face was covered in black fur. Her eyes had gone yellow, and there was a long, pointed ears poking through her hair. It was a cat's hair, she howled. Millicent Bulstrode must have a cat, and potion isn't supposed to use for animal transformation. Uh-oh, said Ron. You'll be teased something dreadful, said Murder happily. It's okay, Hermione, said Harry quickly. Well, take you up to the hospital wing. Madame Pomfrey never asked too many questions. It took a long time to persuade Hermione leaving the bathroom. Molly and Myrtle sped them on their way with a hearty gobble. Wait till everyone finds out you've got a tail,